Hey there, mamas! You are listening to Release Your Inner Power podcast, where we talk about having both me time and being the best mom, sharing stories, encouragement, and tips for taking the steps to release that inner power and that mom guilt. I'm your host, Shauna B. Here we go. One quick thing before we get started. I will be doing a drawing for a fun gift each month. Here are 3 ways to enter. You can email me to share your juicy takeaways, topic ideas you want to hear, or share a story. Share this podcast on social media and tag me with what episode you listened to and what you learned or loved about it. And if you leave a review, you will get 2 entries into the drawing. I will announce the winner the last week of each month. Okay, let's get started. Guess what? Something new is coming in January and February, and I want to give you guys all the little tidbits on it here. I have something that is coming out. If you are a person that struggles with finishing something or starting a new task but you don't complete it, or you want to start something new, or you want to just get adventurous and go out and try something else, or you are having a little trouble working through some guilt because you don't think that you should be doing those things, I have something for you. I am making small community. I have 2 of them. Small community where women come together to communicate, to connect, to support each other with live coaching from me. It is a monthly membership. I can give you all the details. There is a link in the show notes that goes into description on what this is. And I have 2 of them starting January and February. If you want on the list, send me your email so I can get you on this list. Limited spots available to help you accomplish your new year goals. Hey guys, what is happening? I wanted to come to you guys today and chat with you a little bit about something that's been coming up a lot lately, not just in my life, but in other mamas' lives. And I wanted to share a little bit about something that I have been, how do I say this? Been working with and troubleshooting for quite some time now. So I have 3 children, and my children are very spirited children. One of my kiddos has high functioning ADHD, where his impulsiveness is kind of off the charts. It's one of those things where something will happen and then it's like, oh, afterwards, like the realization of it actually happening afterwards. And it could be things that are done, emotionally reactive, words, yelling, grabbing something, taking something, any of that stuff, like any of that, is very, very heightened. As well as borderline oppositional defiant disorder. So what that means is that anytime that there's an authority figure involved, oppositional defiant disorder is almost like I call it peacocking, like when the peacock wants to kind of show and ruffle his feathers a little bit and be like, I'm here and this is what it is. I feel like that's like the reaction of at least my kiddo when it comes to oppositional defiant disorder. And he's right on the line. So sometimes it's not even a thing. And then sometimes it is a thing. And so it's very hard to navigate through at times. I'm going to be honest here. I'm going to be real talking with you guys, because this is a scenario and situation that I have been in for quite a few years. So I'm going to back up. I'm going to back up to the beginning. So in the beginning, it was just me and my firstborn, and he had been going to elementary school for a few years. I do believe it was around 3rd grade. And I started to see some things and some tendencies. Now, when it's your firstborn, you don't know what's considered a norm, which I don't even know what that is, right? Because I feel like kiddos are so individualized. It's a whole other thing. They're so individualized. What is normal? There is no normal. Everybody's their own kind of normal, or everybody's their own kind of weirdo. However that is, right? So with my kid, I started noticing things about like him having a really hard time to sit down in the traditional way of a public school system and do the work that was given to him in the way that it was given to him, in the setting that was given to him. And it was extremely challenging. And it wasn't that he didn't want to do it. It was that it was hard for him to do, or it was like, next thing. Oh, what's over there? Oh, my friend's talking. And it's like all like, it was distracting to the other class, but to my kid, it was just like, oh, what's the next thing? Oh, what's the next thing? Like, he doesn't want to miss a thing. Like, he doesn't want to miss a beat. It's like, oh, that's process next. That's process next. I have been calling it his superpower for years. Tapping into that superpower. I mean, imagine if your brain was processing, or maybe you are somebody that processes like that, and moves on to the next, but is like processed and on to the next. That is like, I would love that. I would love that, because like so many things would just be processed onto the next. I'm done with that. Oh, I was over that 5 minutes ago, or whatever. I love it. Like, I love getting to know his brain. So sorry, back to third grade. So I started noticing some things. I started noticing that it was hard for him to do homework. I started noticing, because that's really when homework started, at least back then for him. And like, you know, the whole way of how this was supposed to be done, it just wasn't his jam. It was not his jam. And I'm like, how can I help him? How can we do this kind of in a way where that makes him want to continue to do it and want to do it? So I just to know, because I wanted to know for myself, like, is my kiddo, like, I've had people suggest to me, like, maybe you should get him tested for ADHD, you know, whatever. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, this is my firstborn. This is all I know. You know, like, to me, it's just our everyday activities of, you know, how active he is and on to the next and redirection and all of that. Like, that was very normal for us. And so it didn't seem like out of the norm. So people would suggest it to me, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. Worst case scenario, you know, to me, like, you get the information that you need to do what you need to do so I can understand, because I'm not wired that way. And what do we want to do as parents is understand our kids to best guide and teach them so they can thrive and be successful and be like great humans to like pass the baton to, right? So I went and got him tested. I went to a behavioral health center and I got him tested. And the testing is it's extensive to the point where it was all day. And for a third grader to have all day testing seems like a lot, but the way that they test is amazing, because it doesn't seem like testing like what you would think is testing for us, like sitting down in front of a paper and it's like, oh my gosh, fill in the bubbles, or, you know, circle the answers or whatever. Like, it's mixed up in a way of where they feel like they were playing. I took a lunch break with him. He went back for the rest of the day to finish the testing. And then after that, we get all the results of everything that was tested for. And this was on a spectrum of everything, right? So if your kid has ADHD or autism or oppositional defiant disorder, or there's a lot of other ones, I apologize, I don't know them all. But like on the spectrum of everything that they can test for, to give you an idea of what is going on and how best fits from studies shown, and what you can do to help them thrive, as well as, you know, your kiddo and what helps them thrive, right? So I get all this information, super overwhelming. I literally felt like I did not know my child anymore. Like, after I got the information, I felt like I did not know my kid. I felt like I was kind of lost. I felt like, holy freaking moly, I don't even know like where to begin with this. I don't even know where to start. And I feel like all of my processes and plans that I've had in place to help him, I felt like I needed to throw out the window, that I've been working against him this whole time. And it was awful. And so I'm like, okay, so how can I spin this around? How can I flip this? Because how can I use this information to benefit both of us? And it's trial and error. And I started to like realize, like, I need to give myself a little bit more grace here. The fact that I am learning and wanting to try something new, learning and seeing what processes help him, seeing what things help him, right? and going from there. And if it doesn't work, pitch it and try something else and see if that works, to see what best benefits him. Come up with this plan where he can thrive in school and where he can, thrive in general, because of the processing that they do with their brain, some things can be a little bit delayed. For example, in my case, his emotional regulation was not, like, he was smart as a whip. Like, he didn't even have to, like, for math, for years, did not even have to write it down. Like, he could look at the math problem and give an answer. And the teacher's like, well, how did you get that answer? And he's like, in my brain. Like, he could just, like, it's crazy. Like, he could listen to a chapter in a book and then, like, take the test and get an A. Like, it was bananas crazy. Like, super, super smart. Well, with all of the processing with that going on, his emotional regulation and understanding emotions was not at the level. So, like, if he was 8, he might have emotional recognition, regulation, things like that, of like a 7-year-old, possibly 6-year-old. And so it was kind of like catching up with that, because he would have to slow down a little bit more to process those things, and slowing down's also not his jam, right? And so it's going to take a little bit more. Also, with the understanding of me, like, I had to change many things as a parent. I had to change how I was going about doing things. And most of all, I had to change my perception. My perception of what is. What do I mean by that? Like, what is the expectation? Like, there's all these social norms of where your kid's supposed to be and how they're supposed to act and what they're supposed to do. And I say that a little sarcastically because, like, it's weird because we get trapped in these social norms, and the reality of the situation is we're all in our own, like, little bubble. Yeah, we're social and everything, but, like, social norms may not be what I am, or social norms may not be what my kids are, right? And so it's kind of like going with what they are and going what's best for your family, and it doesn't have to fit in the social norm. But I never was out of that box. I never thought out of that box. So I had to do a lot of pitching of things, like pitching of this expectation. And so what if my kid can't, sit for a test, and he has to go out and maybe get extra help for a test so he can focus a little bit more? Big deal. So what if he is emotionally a little bit behind? He will get there eventually, which he has. He will eventually get there. It's just going to take a little bit more time, and, like, being okay with that, and being okay with the whole situation of what all this information is and what you can do with it, right? There's a lot of redirecting as a parent, and how do I say it? I guess, like, kind of wiping the slate clean and starting anew on what's best going to fit for both family and, your kiddo and your mom. It was a lot. And so I started shaking things out, and I'm like, one step at a time. Right now, we can work on home things all the live long day. We can just, keep working things out, trying things. I asked a lot of times for his input to see what he would want to do to try something new, because I felt like the more he had input, the more his buy-in was for it, as well as for going to the school and doing meetings. Now, when I found this all out, I needed to go to public school to do an IEP. So an IEP is like, it is called special education, which is also a thing that we could get into with social norms, right? It is a special education, like, order. It's a legal document that provides your child with the tools that are needed in order for them to be successful. That is not within, like, just going about doing your work and, in my opinion, fitting in the box of the public school, the way the public school system is. So if they need extra reading help, if they need extra math help, if they need extra time, if they need stuff to be read to them, if they need extra time for tests, if they need their questions to be presented differently because it's hard for comprehension, or if they need extra time because they get overwhelmed and get too anxious and give up to turn something in, or if they need planning help, or if they need, name it, then you name the tool. If you put it in this document, it is required to be provided by the public school system for your child to succeed. So what does that entail? Well, you need to go to the school, You need to talk to the school counselor. It gets put in motion, and then there's meetings. And in these meetings, there's like 5 people in these meetings. It's like an IEP manager, a teacher, sometimes a school nurse, the counselor or student advocate, the parent. And if you're going to a behavioral therapist to figure it all out, which I was, because I wanted to do the best that I possibly could for my kid, and I needed all the tools that I could possibly think of. And so I would go to these meetings and express all of these things, and it was so eye-opening to me on so many different levels. You know, like, here I am in a public school system. When your kid is in school, you fully trust as a parent that the school has your kid's best interest at heart and they want them to succeed. And that very well may be the case for schools. But there's also some schools or some people or, you know, whatever, there's all different kinds of them where it doesn't feel that way sometimes because they are more. They need more tools. There needs to be more, staff, training, which have you, to make it a little bit more difficult. And so when I started going into these meetings, I left it up to the school to be like, you tell me what you have to help him, because I don't know, because you're still trying to learn. Like, you're still trying to figure out what the heck this even means, how to even go about navigating it at home. And then, the school's asking you what things that he struggles with and whatever. And it's like, at first I was really pissed. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not with him at school. I know what he struggles with at home. When he is at school, I don't know because I'm not in his classroom. I can only go by what the teacher says, right? So then the teacher can pipe in and say what can help him. And I remember sitting one time in the principal's office because I got called to the principal's office a lot. This is another reason why I got an IEP, for disrupting the class or getting up or, moving around in the classroom or talking to his friends or outbursts or whatever, all of which he could not control, all of which was very hard for him to do, to sit in one spot and to do all of what he was supposed to do, which was another reason why I got the IEP to begin with, was to help him, right? Or basically, in all honesty, help excuse him from the behaviors that he can't control. So it's like a non-biased thing. When you step back and look at that picture, it's like, what the heck is this, right? But I tried to put that whole feeling aside and moving on for what's best for my kid. So sitting in these meetings, I remember thinking how am I supposed to come up with this? Well, then the next meeting comes around, which is probably in the next year. Maybe it was 6 months. I don't know. I honestly can't tell you because I've had a lot of meetings with the public school system. And when it came around again, I was more prepared. I had the IEP in front of me. I knew what his skills were that they had provided him the last year. I knew what worked and what didn't work through talking to him and seeing where he was, seeing where his grades were, what was not working, and I had to become like a super advocate for my kid because what I thought was happening, they would do the action. Right? But it was almost like I had to come up with the action on what was best for my kid. Yes, the moms and parents and what have you know what's best for your kid. Yes, that is true. We do not teach them in a classroom setting. Kiddos act different at school than they do at home. Home is their safe place. It is much different at home than it is at school. Much different. So you need some education and storytelling of what is actually happening. And it comes from both sides. Because in the beginning, the teacher would tell me something, the principal would call me, I would hear it, and then I would almost get upset at my kiddo at first without getting the whole story. And I stopped that very quickly. And I started getting the whole story. I started getting his side. I started getting their side. And I pieced together a lot of things that I also did not think would happen in school or would happen in general. And that it's just because an adult says it doesn't mean that's what it is, right? Kiddo's perspective can be completely different than an adult's also. And if his perspective is completely different, why is he having that perspective? Why is he recognizing that? Is this really what the scenario is looking like to both parties, right? And then now all of a sudden you're a friggin' mediator for all the parties involved. It's overwhelming. It's kind of astonishing and shocking. At the same time, you're like, holy moly, now I'm like the driver of this bus here. Like, I'm the one that's going to have to be here advocating, because you don't really know what's going to happen next, or what's, you know what I mean? I'm kind of like just pouring out situations here to like give you guys examples too, so you can understand it. I'll give you a story. There was one time he was in 3rd grade, and I got a phone call that he was being disruptive in class, and that I needed to come pick him up because he was done for the day. And I'm thinking, holy moly, like, what is he doing? Like throwing furniture or something? Which, not my kiddo, but you know, what's happening here? I just had a C-section. It hadn't even been like, I think it'd been like 5 weeks or something like that, where I had just had a C-section. I had a new babe. And so I'm wrapping up my babe, and we're going to the school, and I walk in, and my kid is like really upset, and all he wants is for the principal to leave him alone. And the principal is standing in the hallway saying, I'm not going anywhere. And he's like, all I want is for you to leave. And I just took over the situation. I walked in and I turned to the principal and I said, can somebody else stand here at least until I can decompress the situation? Because this is triggering to him. And if you want it to decompress, he's telling you what he needs. Can you do that? Since I'm here. And he's like, well, I can't, like, basically a staff member has to be there. Fine. So another staff member comes and he leaves instantly. My kid comes down from being super upset. No furniture was thrown, by the way, in case anybody's wondering. Instantly he comes down from the situation, and I'm talking to him, and I'm like, okay, we're going to go home now, because, you know, this is too much. This is too much emotions. It's too big, and we need to just take a break. And he started to break down and started to cry and be really upset, because he was saying he was being accused of something that he didn't do, and nobody was listening to him. And he got really upset about the situation, to the point where I guess he was being loud and disrupting class, as far as like yelling because somebody wasn't listening to him. And so the principal got called, what have you. So I took him home and we decompressed. So I had to go back to the school, and I had to chat with the principal about the whole scenario, about what was going on. And during that time, I just remember breaking down and crying because of the perception that my child was to them. And when I say them, it was really the principal. Like, the teacher felt bad for him. The teacher reached out to me. She didn't know how to help him, so she had to call the principal. And when the principal got there, it was a disaster. It got worse. It didn't get better. So then they called me. But then the way that the principal was saying it to me was almost like my kid is too much. And I just was bawling my eyes out. I'm like, what does this even mean? And then he proceeds to tell me that he's expelled from school. What? What does that even mean? My son is expelled from school because he's emotionally heightened, and he was yelling, and it was too much. Like, I feel like it was made bigger than it actually, like, gathering all the information from all the people and all the stories. I feel like the situation was made bigger. Like, yes, it was a big deal and it was heightened emotion, but I felt like it was made bigger to try to get him removed so they wouldn't have to, in my opinion, deal with him. And it was like friggin' frustrating. It was so frustrating. And I just remember bawling my eyes out, and I was like, and I remember looking right at the principal and I'm saying, he is not going to be expelled. If I have to go to the district about this, he's not going to be expelled. He is in 3rd grade. Like, what are we even saying here? I said, obviously this is too heightened right now. And as I'm crying, and maybe we need to take a break here and then we're going to revisit. But expulsion is not a thing. Like, he didn't even do anything under to be expelled for. Like, this doesn't make any sense. It was so crazy. So long story short, he ended up not getting expelled. And he had like a month and a half left of school. And as long as the principal stayed away, there was no issue, which I had to fight for. And I got it, but then after that, because of that situation, we ended up moving schools because that was way too much. That was a whole thing. We ended up moving schools to a amazing elementary school, which my kiddos still go to. My younger kiddos still go to this amazing school that I love, love, love. And my kid totally thrived just by the environment being switched and actually reading the IEPs and following what is done. So why am I telling you all of this? I'm telling you all of this because I just want you to know that if you are a mama that has a spirited child, if you are a mama that has a child that has an IEP, has a 504 plan, has something in place, I want to tell you that you are not alone. I want to tell you that it is okay. I want to tell you that your kid has a level of superpower that other people may not understand. And that's okay that they don't understand. You are not alone. And your kids are not bad because they have an IEP or they have a 504 plan or they need extra help or they need extra tools. That is okay too. I almost feel like that the school system is trying. They're trying to get onto this level. I feel like more kids are having IEPs, more kids are having 504 plans. They don't fit in the old school ways of public school system anymore, and it's moving. And until the school system shifts, there's going to be a lot more of this. There's going to be a lot more of this. I just really wanted to talk and give this, a few mamas have come to me and because they've known my situation of where I started and what I've done. And I have many, many stories about this that I can share if needed. If this has touched you or if you want to hear more, if you want to talk about it, whatever that is, I am totally here for that, because going through something like that when I first had my kid and going through all of that and not knowing what to think and feeling totally alone and crying about things, and at times you feel like you're failing as a mom, and then you see your kid heartbroken and you see your kid so upset when kids are supposed to be happy and having fun and liking school. And after that particular incident that I shared with you guys, my kid has hated school ever since then. Ever since then. And it should not be that way. It should not be that way. And I have worked very hard with him through the years to try to shift that perception. I think it has improved and got better. It is not as bad as it used to be. But it shouldn't, I feel like I just feel like that should not be the case. And there needs to be a place there should be a place for moms to chat about this and, get the help. Who else out there is dealing with this right now, right? I've had 3 moms come to me in the last couple of months and been like, oh my gosh, can you help me? This is what they're saying. This is what they're doing. Where do I even get this? Do I need a behavioral therapist? Do I get tested? Do I do this? Is it going to hurt them? Is it going to benefit them? All of these questions. And do what's right for you. Do what you feel is right for you and your family. If it is to get those tools for your kiddo, do not expect the school to do it. You are going to have to be the biggest advocate for your kiddo to get those tools in the meetings, to tell them how they're going to be successful. It's almost like you're fighting for your kid in the meetings. Now, some schools are friggin' amazing, and it's like, I love this school, this is awesome, look at what the teachers are bringing in, all of that, okay? I'm just sharing my experience with you. Everybody's experience is different, and you may never experience a bad experience ever. I was just sharing with you my experience that shifted and changed how my kiddo's school life has then been from then on out. So yeah, main message is, you're not alone. There's a lot of these scenarios that go out. You're doing the best you can with what you have. And, if you want to share your story with me, or you want to just let me know, thank you for saying that. Thank you for giving me the space to share or to hear you. That's what I'm here for. I appreciate you guys listening to this, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. I just want to say thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, learned something new, or got a juicy takeaway that will bring in that heck yeah back into your life. I release a new episode each week, so make sure to subscribe. If you love the show, want to share a story, comment below. If you know someone that would love or need this episode, be sure to share it with them. I'm sure they would love you for it. Tag me and find me on social media at Ignited Decisions on Instagram and Shauna with Ignited Decisions on Facebook. I would love to know what episode you listened to and how it helped you, as well as connect on social. Okay, mamas, claim your time and release your inner power.